What is going on, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here, of course, bringing you another episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Greatly appreciate you guys for tuning in to this training camp, day one training camp episode. This episode, I do want to throw out there, it is pre-recorded. So you're watching this 8 o'clock Wednesday night. It's being recorded as of Wednesday at 3:10, 10 after 3, pre-recorded and posted for you guys to really enjoy and to tune into. So greatly appreciate you guys tuning into this episode. Of course, it's day one of Buffalo Bills NFL training camp. I'm really pumped up, really excited to just give you guys my takes on some players that I have my eyes on heading into training camp. Not necessarily, position battles. I think we know where those lie, and despite you know, that term being thrown around with training camp in particular, I think the position battles are few and far between. But I want to talk about just the players that I really like in terms of just my eyes and who I'm gravitating towards as I, inch closer and closer to making my training camp appearance here in the next couple weeks. So with that being said, I'm just going to do the flip of the hat. We're going to go with the first player that is on my list for the players that I have my eyes on, and it is a rookie. Of course, that is none other than Maxwell Hairston. So Maxwell Hairston, my expectations for him are pretty high. First round draft choice, guy that the Buffalo Bills definitely believe in and hope that he can be, the next Trey White, the next CB1, CB2 type guy that they can really rely on. That would be awesome, and where he was drafted, that's where I would, hope that he falls in line with that projection. What makes Maxwell Hairston such an interesting player for the Bills Mafia to tune into every Sunday is that he's an extremely fast player. He's a player that I think has a lot of attributes that Buffalo has sorely missed within the secondary. A closing type down and distance corner that can close the distance on a wide receiver, close the distance on a ball carrier, whether it's a wideout, a tight end, a running back. And apparently he's made quite a few plays already in day one of Buffalo Bills training camp here, seeing a play where he came out of nowhere and dove to swat the ball. That's defense, just defense wizardry at its finest. Having a guy like that, not always looking for that big interception, but a guy that can just consistently make defensive stops, whether it's getting in front of the football or catching the football as an interception, and in coverage too. I think Maxwell Hairston was one of those corners that was rarely targeted throughout his time at Kentucky due to how devastatingly great he was as a corner in the college ranks. So the next player that I have my eyes on, and it's a player that is going into his second year as a Buffalo Bill, a player that I think has more of a role to carve out in this offense than what he did last year, is running back Ray Davis. And this might come as a shock to some, but James Cook obviously missed, kind of a lot of, I think, decent time to work out with his teammates due to the holdout. And yes, despite the fact that, James Cook and the Buffalo Bills were not in quote unquote training camp, James Cook still had a chance to kind of work out with his teammates, and he did not. He was holding out. So Ray Davis kind of took that opportunity for himself and said, well, James Cook is not going to really be around to work out. I'm going to be around. I'm going to put myself out there as the presumed heir apparent or running back one of this Buffalo Bills team. And it's very interesting because Ray Davis, I think, could take that mantle if, in fact, James Cook were to miss any time. When James Cook did miss time, Ray Davis filled in very well. Ray Davis put up RB1 type numbers, and the week that Ray Davis was the starting running back for the Buffalo Bills, he was the RB3 in all of fantasy football. So for that week. So 158 total yards, in terms of rushing and receiving yards. Ray Davis really did his thing. So I like Ray Davis a lot. I think that he's somebody that is only going to get better as we, see his career progress here in Buffalo. So he's somebody that I have my eyes on as well. Sticking with the offensive side of the ball, the two players that I talked about last week on last week's episode of the Thomas Take Sports podcast, it's really crucial for Kincaid and Coleman to get on track. I talked about that last week. Felt like Kincaid and Coleman really needed to show up and show out. And the thing with Dalton Kincaid that makes him such a unique player is just how athletic he is for someone of his size. Now, that size, more stature, last season is now hopefully turned into size in terms of body mass, heading into what is now his third year in the National Football League. Keon Coleman, in his own right, looking to become a big deal in this league, to say the least. And it's the second year for Coleman. It's the third year for Kincaid. I think the first year for Kincaid, much better than the second year, of course. But can we get any sort of signs of life that second year, that the third year is going to be much, much better than the second, and that the third year is going to be much, much similar to that first year? I think that could be the case with what I'm hearing. He's added a lot of size on. What I'm hearing, he seems ready and raring to go. And on the flip side of things with Keon, I've never heard a player as criticized as Keon Coleman in recent years has been. For a rookie to be as criticized as much as he was by the Bills Mafia, I thought that it was a little overzealous. I thought that it was a little too much too soon to say that he was not the guy that we should have picked. I think it's way too soon to say that. I thought he had a real sign of life in his rookie season, showed that he could be a solid wideout in this league with the skills that he has, just the fact that he got hurt. So these two players, I put him in a lump of one, Kincaid and Coleman. Buffalo needs both of those players to be at the top of their game. Those are two players that I got my eyes on heading into training camp. Of course, day one was today. Dawson Knox, he is out with an injury, so that leaves Dalton Kincaid more of a bit of a role here in the early going here in practice. Of course, I think that there are some physical freaks on this team, guys that, should be looked at as wow type players, players that really do not make sense physically in what they're capable of doing. So another player that I have my eyes on is rookie defensive end Landon Jackson. I think that his size is extremely rare. His skills are extremely rare for a player of his size. So he's another player that I have my eyes on. So to wrap up the player portion, as far as Kincaid, Coleman, Ray Davis, Landon Jackson, as well as Maxwell Hairston, I'd like to talk about HBO Hard Knocks. I talked about it a few weeks ago. This is such a special opportunity for Bills fans, because I know, myself, I've been a big fan of Hard Knocks for quite some time. I've loved this show. I've loved what it's brought to the, particular franchises that have been able to be a part of it. And what it does for the players that are on the outside looking in, some of the players that are the most well-known players on that team. It does a hell of a lot just to build that notoriety surrounding that brand in and of its own right. HBO Hard Knocks is its own brand, I would say. And I saw the trailer today for HBO Hard Knocks, and it just really revved me up, not even necessarily for the Bills season, but just as a part of being a fan of this team for the 33 years that I've been on this earth. This just feels like a different level of notoriety that the Bills literally and figuratively have never quite experienced. And if you were to tell me that, 8-9 years ago, the Bills would draft this kid out of Wyoming and that kid would become, the heir apparent to franchise greats like Jim Kelly, I would have said, wow, I really liked Josh Allen coming out of the draft in 2018. He was one of the quarterbacks that I thought had the best opportunity here in Buffalo. The short list was a short list, but it was an even shorter list in terms of the players that I thought would be a better fit for the Bills. And Josh Allen and Sam Darnold were a part of that, as well as Lamar Jackson. Those were the three quarterbacks that I really liked for the Bills. But Josh Allen just really stood out in terms of his just overall personality, to the point where Buffalo drafts him, they take him, and he ends up being the franchise guy. Really exciting about that. Really excited about that. Exciting times. HBO Hard Knocks in the stratosphere of the Bills Mafia is just great. So I wanted to close the show with that. I also wanted to close the show with the return of the red helmet. My thoughts on this. So this was a real seminal moment for me as a Buffalo Bills fan. I'm going to try my hardest. I'm already getting choked up. Come on, Ryan. Pull yourself together. Try really hard not to get choked up when reading this. But for all of you guys that have followed me, Buffalo fan base, greatly appreciate you guys tuning in, as well as my YouTube channel, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. The fact that I didn't mention that from the top, my apologies. I was just so excited to get into this show. But looking at this, I think that this team is very special. Guys like Joey Bosa are talking about, never hanging out with a teammate as much as these guys have hung out in the 6 weeks that he's been here. So that's really cool. And I think the return of the red helmet just brings back the nostalgia vibes that are so epic here in this town. So with that being said, I want to read one of my posts that I posted on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Facebook page. The return of the red helmet, a personal memory. So when the Buffalo Bills announced the return of the iconic red helmet, it was more than just a uniform change for me. It felt like a piece of my childhood coming back to life. That red helmet doesn't just represent an era of Bills football. It reminds me of my grandfather. He was the one who first sat me down in front of the television on Sundays, proudly wearing his Buffalo Bills gear, always pointing out the fact that the players were the players that we rooted for were the ones with the red helmet. To him, that helmet symbolized toughness, grit, and pride, the way football was meant to be played. Every time I see this helmet now, this helmet right here, every time I see it, I don't think of Jim Kelly. I don't think of Thurman Thomas. I don't think of Andre Reed. I don't think of Bruce Smith. I don't think of Doug Flutie, Antoine Smith, Peerless Price, Eric Moulds, Drew Bledsoe, JP, Trent, all those guys. Fred Jackson. I don't think of those guys. Marshawn Lynch. I think of my grandfather's stories, his voice yelling at the referees through the screen, and the quiet pride he had in his team, win or lose. The Red Helmet's return isn't just about nostalgia for me. It's a connection to the people who made us fall in love with the game in the first place. I love football. I really do. And the Red Helmets were a big part as to why I fell in love with this sport. So, and the Buffalo Bills. So when I saw that the Buffalo Bills were turning back the clock and going back to those red helmets, it really provided a glimpse of the past to the present and hopefully to the future. I don't know what the plans are for the Buffalo Bills and their red helmet. I just sincerely hope that the new stadium opens, we can keep the red helmet in somewhat of a circulation, and we can be proud to be Bills fans once again, opening up this new stadium with a pride in our past, faith in our future type mindset. I think that's really special. And I think it meant a lot to a lot of people. And I don't think I'm the first one to really weigh that decision as heavily as I have. It means a lot. means a lot to us fans here in Western New York and in the Bills Mafia universe. So there it is. That's all. I'm keeping it short and sweet today. I got a lot of busy stuff going on here, coaching and things like that. So I'm keeping it short and sweet, but gave you guys some players that I'm really excited to see come training camp. Talked a little bit about the HBO Hard Knocks series and the Buffalo Bills return to red. I really appreciate you guys tuning in here. Of course, I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'll see you next time.